Looks like we're live on Facebook, according to Zoom.
We are live on Facebook, brother. What you talking about? Yes, we are live up in here. We are, well, I'm not going to drop a name. All right, let me stop sharing my screen so that you guys can rock and roll there. What's going on, everybody? Woo! It's hump day. Podcast Peeps.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We already got a good crowd on Zoom, and hopefully you get a good crowd watching on Facebook. And I'm going to enjoy today's subject. This is a great one, and everybody needs help with this one, whether you're new or you've been podcasting for a while. And that's the subject today is going to talk about guest strategies and, all sorts of issues around getting guests. And one of the things I want to share before and actually the great thing about this is we can do more hot seats tonight and have more of an interactive discussion with any questions you all may have about guests for podcasts. But one of the things I'm also excited to go through is to show you, and I do want to share our screen for this before we get to any real Q&A or hot seats, is our booking calendar link and showing you how we book guests and all the information we capture through our booking calendar, which if any of you are not doing that, I would highly recommend it because it's a great way to have your guests really provide you a lot of the information you need for your show, make them do some of the work, and they have to do it or else they can't book. So anyway, we're going to show you the tool we use for that, although there's lots of tools
there's lots of free ones and other things out there. I mean, I think the critical, like I'm invited on a lot of shows and I'm shocked at some of, I don't know, Scott, you've enrolled in, getting on a guest on a lot of shows, right? Recently, but I've been doing the same thing for next year. And I'm shocked at the amount of pretty deep, 100 episode plus podcasts that still don't have calendars. And I was like, isn't it a booking nightmare? It's like, so you're like going back and forth on times with people. What do you do? So
yeah, I totally agree with that. That's probably one of the biggest things in the last probably 120 days that I added was a simple calendar link, going in there and putting my schedule and then the podcast booking and being able to finalize. So it totally made it a whole lot easier. Then you mentioned it, Tracy, by, you should add all this. I'm like, oh, duh. Let's put this in here and let's put this in here.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier, but you're also people like, okay, you want me to, where's the link? Or, I understand not immediately having a link depending on what you're using, but still give us some sort of insight or, what do you prefer? Somebody interviewed me today on Skype and it was really kind of grainy. I'm like, we should use something else, don't you think? But oh well.
I had that happen. I was on someone else's show earlier this week and they were using Skype as well. And we used Skype in the very beginning. 5 years ago, Skype was like the most common tool. And,
and we never loved it. It was like always a pain.
Well, it worked, but it had its issues. And then as soon as Microsoft took over Skype, they really ruined it.
It made it harder to make the dialed phone calls. So then it really was, there really wasn't any purpose and reason to use it over, Zoom was just as easy.
Actually, I think that's the main reason I do use Skype, if I ever do, is if for some reason I have to dial someone. I think we may have talked about that in an earlier mastermind. That's the one reason I would use Skype. But I really, Zoom is my standard. I love Squadcast. That's another great one. But anyway, that's sort of getting into recording and not so much guest booking, but or guesting, all guest issues. So I'll tell you what, since we started talking about it, why don't I go ahead and share my screen and just show everyone our booking calendar process?
So keep in mind that there's like a pre-step to this, right? Which is where you're looking for guests. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, but where you're looking for guests and you've said, hey, do you want to be on my show? But once they say yes, this is the link we send them to.
I'm trying to find
because you have too much on your screen.
Too many different shows with bookies, right?
Yeah, it just Chrome, probably popped it up. Go to Chrome.
It's Chrome, but it's got my wrong page on Chrome, I guess. Oh, it's because I went into the Zoom webinar. All right, there we go. Okay. All right. So, Scott, can you see that?
Yep. Your time zone, feed your brand. Yeah, pick a date and time. Yeah.
So this is our we have a link on our website that'll take you here, or we'll send we can give people this link.
I have to tell you that no one ever goes through the website to book, because no one, they're just all afraid, like, are you going to accept me? And so we just don't, no one ever uses it, but it is there. But mostly we send out to someone we want to invite on the show, and we send them this link. And this is a schedule once program. So it's it goes in your time zone. But the reason Tom and I use this, it's paid, and it's a little more complicated than some of the simpler ones like Calendly and some of the others out there. And the reason why we use it is because we have 2 calendars. So when you have a co-host and you need to reconcile multiple calendars, we found this one to be the most comprehensive. And so we actually, I don't know, we pay a lot of money now because we use we use it for every different type of show. We use it for a bunch of things.
And we have 3 different, because we have Feed Your Brand.
We have 4 podcasts.
Then we have 4 different podcasts that either we're hosts on together or separately about. But anyway, so we have a lot of calendars to manage. So for us, Schedule Once, which is this meetme.so, Schedule Once, is what we use. Calendly is another, and there are others. And we're not advocating one over another, but for us, because of the complexity of our schedules, this is the one that works for us.
Right. But what we really want to show you here is that you pick your time. And when you pick your time, right?
Well, the other nice thing I just want to point out is we even have our calendar set. So, within the next 2 weeks, because our schedule is usually busier, there's maybe one day people could book on. And we do limit the number of days per month, or how many days in the short term we could do. And then you can also limit.
I think we might have messed up here because
usually we have this many open days.
We should. It's probably because we didn't go all the way through December. So now you're reminding me. I will fix December.
Fix that. But here's the thing: there's only also a couple of appointments in the day. Booking calendar links. This is just sort of friendly advice for any of you using a booking calendar for anything. Sometimes you may not, even if your schedule's wide open for whatever you're booking people for, you may not want your calendar to look like you have no other appointments scheduled. You can actually control that. You can have it say, all right, I'm only going to book on every Friday if that's the days I want to record, or I'm only going to book 1 Friday a month or 2 Fridays a month. And when you go to that day, you can say, all right, show 3 open slots or 2 open slots. You have complete control over these calendars.
And the one thing that I also do is, so I do ink interviews, right, for my ink column. And so I only allow 6 interviews total in a month. So you can also, once 6 book up, you could block it. So you can do that within a day, or you can do that over the course of the whole month.
So here you can see,
this is the important part.
Selected your time. This is the important important information. You've got, what it is you're booking and the time, but this is all the information. We set up all these fields and these ones that have stars are required. They can't book an appointment without giving us their name, their email, phone number, website. Their understanding. This is important. You're getting them to sign off on and understand that this is going to be recorded, and they're agreeing to be recorded. It's default checked. So they have to do that. Provide their bio, their headshot that we're going to use in the blog post, their social media links, and some specific topics that they would, like to talk about. We can decide whether we want to actually talk about those things, but we're asking them, what are the things you'd like to talk about, and anything else about you we should know. And then boom, you're done. Once you click done and enter that information, then your schedule is booked on our then it's booked on our calendar. So that's really it. But it's so valuable. And actually, you know what I should do? I think I have to stop share and share again in order to show it. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to bring up my calendar, which is actually probably going to freak some of you out because of how crowded my calendar
freaks
is.
Me out.
But I have to share differently because I only shared. So with the calendar, you can see, I'll show you the person that I interviewed today for one of our podcasts, which is for our 3D printing podcast. I had an interview today, and in my calendar, and this, I'm using iCal, but it could be any calendar. You can see here when I go to that appointment and I'm going to interview this person. Hopefully I've spent more time than just a couple minutes before the interview to study them, but I have all their information. I'm trying to find the bio here. Yeah, here it is. I have their bio. It comes right into my calendar appointment, and all the information about them. that was collected is right here. So I can be studying that quickly before the interview or have it handy to review during the interview. So that's the value of a booking calendar link for your podcast. And that's one thing that I wanted to share with you all today.
So helpful, though. So helpful in staying organized. It's not. I totally agree. If you're going to be booking people on, you want to make it easier. It makes it easier when you're editing later on, so you have all their information right in one spot too, when you're uploading or posting it. Whether you're doing the editing yourself or you put it to a production company.
Right. Yeah. What I do, obviously, I'm our staff at Podtize is editing my episodes, but when I record it and then I go to submit that episode, I upload the raw audio, and then I actually go and copy and paste all that bio info, and I download that headshot right by clicking that link, and I'm uploading all those things right to the form for producing the episode, just straight back and forth. This just makes it all easy to have it right there. So anyway, that is what I wanted to share about the booking calendar. But then, let's talk about guests in general, and getting guests. And there are so many different services that will try to place guests on podcasts, and they may be soliciting you with people who have a book that they're promoting, or that for whatever reason are trying to market themselves by getting on podcasts, and you might be solicited by some of them. I always, when that happens to me, I always really do a little homework on, all right, why are you pitching this guest? And is this really relevant to my audience? And is this worthy of, me spending my time on? And a lot of times it is, but sometimes it's not. Have you had that happen, Scott, where it's not worth your time?
Oh yeah, totally. I've had people that come to me and they've got a book or they're trying to do everything else, and it's obviously a push for that aspect. And you can tell when people have actually researched your show a little bit to see if it fits or even close, or those that haven't researched at all. And so I'm not afraid to say, listen, I'm sorry, you're just not a fit. Or if it is a fit and I think I might be a fit, I'll reach out and say, well, yeah, I'm glad to have you on, but I will do a guest swap. I want to be on your show, right? Or, I've even done this. And somebody comes, they're strong, and maybe they don't have a show. Maybe they don't have a really strong social media following, where they're basically just stealing our marketing. I'll be like, okay, I've been offered up. So if you're going to be on my show, I'm going to need some books. If it's going to be something, give me 100 of your books for free.
Oh, hey, you know what? Related to that, and you just triggered something, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is really relevant. So we had a podcaster who we produce a show, and he just wrote a new book, and he came up with a brilliant way to market his you want to lower it? Yeah. He came with a brilliant marketing way to promote his book and to get on shows. I've never heard of anybody doing this. I think we're all pretty familiar with the idea that when you have a guest who's an author who has a book, that you may have an Amazon affiliate account and you want to put a link in your own blog post for your episode that links to Amazon so that people can buy the book through your site, and you make 3% maybe, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
This is a whole new idea. He's actually publishing his book, actually published it, and you can buy the physical book, and he's offering to people that would have him on to talk about his book that the podcast host can sell through an affiliate link on their website and actually make $15 per copy of books sold through his website for up to the first 1,000 copies of people that would buy through his. So you have the potential as a podcast host who has this guest on to make $15,000. I was like, wow, I've never heard of anybody doing that. They've built in this profit model in their book to be able to allow, incentivize podcast hosts to have them on. Now, he hasn't done this yet. It remains to be seen whether it's really going to work, or, if people
I think
really
relevance really matters, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think the subject really needs to be relevant to the audience, and will 1,000 people really go to the blog post and do it? I don't know, but I like the idea of the incentive and making it at least financially worth your while. So I found that interesting.
Well, and that's the thing too, is I've said, well, either you can pay me $1,000 to come on, which is what it's going to cost me with manpower and paying for the episode, and basically being a sponsorship on the episode, or give me $100 that I send that out to my members, my WCN crew members on a monthly basis.
Now, I like that idea too. That's providing real value to your audience.
Right.
For them, yes, it costs them something for the books, but that, if they want to really get on your show, I think it's marketing for them, right? So
exactly, and I'm willing to give them some books too. I've got a book that we put out. Hey, love to. I'd be glad to ship you out a book or put a link or even give you an affiliate code to put on there that if you do sell a workshop or two, give you a 50% kickback, and make it unlimited, for the most part. So, there's a couple different things about doing that. I had a guest come on my show. Then he sent me a copy of his books afterwards, and it came in this really nice box, and it was a handwritten note inside of it with 3 books. I was like, whoa, that's pretty nice swag for a guest sending me after they were on the show. He didn't even talk about the books while he was on the show. He just said, hey, I just want to send this over to you. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. So
Tracy had an experience like that with someone
that's the story about
interviewed.
Dustin Matthews.
Yeah.
So Dustin Matthews, who's a good friend of ours now, but how I first met him was, well, first off, I turned him down multiple times for doing an ink interview.
Well, because you know what? She was pitched by a PR agency.
Right. It wasn't
like,
him
how
directly.
is this relevant to me? And the pitch, I think, wasn't what it could have been.
Right.
And Dustin ended up being a fantastic guest.
He was, yeah.
She didn't know it at first, right?
And so anyway, but I said no a few times, and then a video popped up on my screen because I got cookied because I failed to do it in a private search, which I normally do.
right.
And so he pops up, and I interview him for this article that I was writing, and he immediately sent me out their entire course in the book. I mean, this is like a $10,000 course, and sends it out to me, the whole package of it with the thumb drive and everything. And he happened to catch me right before I was about to give a presentation, because this was doing like sales presentations, right? So webinars, and I was about to do my first one, and I was like, well, let me download the template and figure out what order they do stuff in. And I followed their map. And wow, if it wasn't a great presentation. And so I thought it was pretty good. And I followed up, sent him my article, and sent him the link to the presentation, and sent him the link to, and told him I used it and was doing this presentation. He says, well, send it to me so I can give you feedback before you give it next week. And I was like, wow, that was even better. And he sent me a video back with his critique of it and a couple of great suggestions, which I incorporated. And then I did fantastic and sold a lot on that webinar. And I was like, okay, this is the guy. But it was all that giving that happened. And then we became clients. I mean, we really became clients after that.
Of each other's. We've bought from his company in the past, and now he's a customer of Palatize. But you know what? There are so many different levels of getting guests. And obviously we're talking about some incentives, and some people pay for it. And there are those that absolutely don't pay for it. I've seen a few things commented online in some of the Facebook groups I'm a part of in podcasting, where people are asking, do you ever pay to get guests on your show, or do you pay to be on other people's shows? And I find that for the most part, for the majority of podcasters that I come in contact with, they don't pay to get guests, and they are not having people offer to pay to be on their show. And I think for most of us starting out, you certainly hope you don't have to pay to get guests, and you're hoping they don't require to
I've been on the hundreds now, and I've never paid for one. And the thing about it is that, like, Scott, I like your model of the book, because that's different, because it's selling me at the same time. So it's a higher level of that. That's really different. And I think that that's more valuable, because that's what I find is, like, a lot of times you're going to go on a show and you really don't know how valuable their audience is, how good they are. And I find actually the shows that start charging because they got big enough are actually the worst shows to be on, because their audience is so big. They kind of have actually petered out. They just didn't unsubscribe. They don't really listen to the show anymore, or they listen now randomly. They're not listening to every episode and hanging on every word. So I kind of have a policy of, I don't really love to be on a show that's over 100,000 listens or views, unless it really is so directly relevant to what I do.
But, the other thing for any of you that are, I don't know how many people we have on today that are potential podcasters or new podcasters versus existing ones. But I just want to let you know that from the earliest days of us podcasting, brand new, we were not known in the industry, brand new podcasters, we have never been refused anybody we've solicited to offer to be a guest on our podcast, I don't think have you ever had anybody completely?
So I've had a couple people just be like, it's not the right timing for me. Can I come back to you in 3 months? But no, never refused outright to be on it.
Yeah,
Never.
It's not, it takes a little time, do a little homework, who you want to solicit or invite to be a guest on your show. And if you don't have time to do that, that's what services are for and could really help you with for sure. But if you've got the time to ask, by all means, don't be afraid to ask. That's, I guess, the message that I want to communicate. Do not be afraid to ask. It is an opportunity for them, even if you're a brand new show, to get free exposure. And even if your show has only 50 listeners at the time, you know what? That episode will live on forever, and it will be listened by hundreds and hundreds and maybe thousands of people in the future. So I do believe it will benefit you in the long run. That's my thought on that.
Totally agree with that. Because that's the thing. It's going to be out there forever in iTunes, I had a question for you, Sidetrack. Is there a way to remove an episode if you had a guest on that you want to remove? There is?
Yeah, absolutely.
To remove it? What do you mean remove it?
You remove it from your feed. Yep.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. And you're...
you can leave the blog post in. That's what I typically do. I just remove the audio file. And so it drops off of the list, and I leave the blog post in only because of the, at least it's sending people to your site, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I do leave that, but you can remove that too. So just take out the whole blog post and I'll remove it from the feed.
You have complete control over, hopefully you do.
So on my product launch hazards, I actually move episodes around all the time. So I if something new comes in, I let it go for a couple of weeks and then I move it around. So that way the subscribers get it, right? But then I move it around. So sometimes I bring in, because I have a core group of experts, and sometimes that group changes where, this attorney drops out and we bring in a different one that is more relevant, and I want to bring them in. So I want them to be in the first 25 episodes. So I shift the numbers, and our team does it for me. I just go put this one in episode number 24, and it moves everything back. That way, when somebody is finding you for the first time and binge listening, they're now in optimum order. And so I do that very frequently with that particular show. I don't do it with our others that often, but I do it with that show. And
just pro tip for any of you interested in that. Podcasts display in your feed in order chronologically. Okay. So we have a couple podcasts we launched within the last month that launched. They were trying to really hit it big and grow an audience fast. They launched with 25 episodes from day one. And instead of making it look like they all launched on day one, we actually backdated each of them. So it looked like one was launched per day leading up to that actual launch day, which one of them was October 24th. And it looked like for each weekday for the previous 3.5 weeks, an episode had been published each day. The reality is it was just published on one day. And that chronological order is what orders them. But you can make them all minutes apart too. If you wanted them launched, look like they launched all the same day, you make each one a sequential minute of that day. And that's what defines the order, not the episode number. I just wanted
to date and time.
Clear.
Yeah.
It's the date and time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. Thank you. Yeah, the episode numbers.
Well, to you it was episode number, and that makes sense.
Because that's what I told the team.
But I just mechanically, for some people, they may want to know how that works. Sorry for the technical. I digress.
So I just want to say a few things, if that's okay, because I'm sorry I had to walk away and deal with screaming daughter, but yeah, it happens. It's after 5, there's a couple of things I actually look for that I think of as a valuable guest, and I look for the same things that for a valuable interview subject, right? Number one thing is relevance. Of course, I want to make sure that they're going to be relevant to my audience's show. Even if they're a big name, I don't really want to waste my listeners' time without something that I know will be relevant, or some kind of relevant focus to how we talk about the episode and talk about the topic within the episode. So that I'm really careful about. So if I get a big name and I know they're big, I'm going to say, well, what are we going to talk about that's relevant to this? What experiences do you have, and what do you have there? And we negotiate that. And so sometimes I have to pick up the phone and call them and have a pre-call. That's the only time I ever have a pre-call. Usually I don't, or I've already know them, or they've been referred to me. So that kind of thing. The second thing that I do is I check out their website. So I Google them, because if their website's not any good, then it has lowered value to me.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It has lower value to me. So if they aren't really using a website,
they're not pushing things out on social media.
Right. So I get a lot of authors and they think that their Amazon link is all that they need, or a landing page, and that's it. And I was like, well, where are you going to put that you were on my show? Like, I want a website link. I want to know that. So then the other thing is, when I dive into their website, I check out their press pages and I check out their blog pages, and I see when the last update was. Because sometimes they were not updated very frequently. It's been 2015 since the last post was ever made. And that's a sign that they don't know how to maintain their site, and that they don't really have any technical skills to be able to do it themselves, or a team to do it for them.
Or they don't care to
care to do it. And so that's not as valuable to me either. So those are some of the screeners that I utilize. And then from there, I really try to see if there's any videos or audios, because I want to make sure that they're not going to drone on, or they're going to, they're going to be interesting. So anything I can find that is an audio video clip. And so that's one of the reasons we included that in our directory that we have put together, because we wanted people to be able to just quickly go and listen how they sound.
That hasn't launched quite yet.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah, you're right.
It's
I think it's not
coming
December.
on our Feed Your Brand website. We are doing a free guest and host directory that any of you that have a podcast can be on. We'll announce that when it's available on Podcast Peeps. Free resource for you to find people you might want to interview on your show, or also to put yourself out there as a potential guest for other shows, or as a show. Anyway, you can register yourself either way, as a guest or a host, or both. So that'll be a great free resource for any of you to use to help get guests.
And then if you are one of our clients, or in our mastermind here, and you message us, because I literally talk in an interview, at least a dozen people every single week for either my column or the show, or I'm talking to people. And sometimes I get, the most random things, like that we have a podcaster who's interviewed people with near-death experiences. And I was having coffee a week ago with a good friend to find out that she has someone, and she introduced me to, who had a near-death experience, who was a guest on my show already, was a fabulous guest, and is going to now be on his show. So just randomly saying I'm looking for people, it really helps the rest of us here, because we interact with so many people.
Good point.
Scott, you remember International Podcast Day, right? September 30th. Each of us I did 12 and a half hours. I don't remember. You did something similar, of half-hour interviews throughout the day, nonstop. I was here in this spot for almost that entire day. I did not schedule enough breaks, which I'll learn for next time. But what I wanted to mention about that is, we put out an offer to all the different podcasters that we work with, all these logos that are on this sort of banner behind us, and said, hey, do you want to participate and get a little promotion for your show, International Podcast Day? And I filled up my schedule within about 24 hours. But one thing that I wanted to mention about that is, I had one who I solicited to be a guest, and he was a really big name. And I'm not going to mention who it is, all right? And they're not on this call, and probably will never even watch this on Facebook, because that's the type of person that just happens to be
that big,
a really big name. But again, don't promote themselves, or people that they're guests on the shows. They don't promote it so well. I still thought, well, it's a big name. All right. And so I sort of held out this slot in the day, this half-hour slot for them. And they kept, their staff kept coming back to me and questioning, well, what's the real value? What's the point? And he wanted to get a premium position to be featured. I was like, well, I don't really know how I'm going to do that. We're doing these interviews all day long. We're promoting them all. I don't know how I give you a premium position. And it just got to be so much back and forth about this. And I had some other people that were like, late to the party, wanting to book that spot. And it got to the point where we're like, all right, you're done. And I cut them off, and they were out, and I put someone else in that slot that was actually a fantastic interview. This is a podcast series we're actually going to put out on our Podcast Peeps podcast in the coming, month or so here.
So you guys can all listen to it.
Yeah, you can all listen to all those interviews. And some of you on here were some of those ones being interviewed, and it hasn't been put out quite yet, because we had some other things we're putting out on Podcast Peeps first in terms of that podcast. But anyway, you run into certain situations where guests are
high maintenance.
Well, high maintenance is one word, or
prima donnas.
Yeah, and maybe kind of old school in the way. And you know what? It's like we put out this call to be featured, and a booking calendar link like the one I just showed you for this special one-day event. There were only, I forget how many slots, like 24 or 25 slots, and they started booking up right away. And if you don't jump on it as a potential guest, you might lose. And if you ask too many questions and are too high maintenance, that may not work for you.
So I've done my column for 3 years, right? I'm about to start my 4th year in January of doing my column. So I write 6 articles a month, and all of them have an interview associated with it. So PR firms really come after me and give me pitches, and there's teams involved, and it always is kind of a thing, but they usually came to me to ask me to write about them. So what I found over the years is the worst articles, the articles get the least amount of reads, the views, whatever you want to call it, are the ones that come from the big names and from the organizations, the ones that have staff. I don't know why that is. They should have team. They should be able to do this, but they are always worse than the ones that is a smaller person who's doing it themselves, who was so grateful to be on and interviewed. So this just happened. I just wrote a gift guide, and I had like 5 or 6 items I wrote it for Give Back Tuesday, so that there are items you can buy on Amazon that actually give back in some way, shape, or form. They help the environment, or they make your family, they do things for your family, or whatever it is. And so these are small players. They have all promoted the heck out of it already. And it's only been 3 days. It's like, it's been live for 3 days. And I was like, I'm shocked. It's already my best article this month. And I had some really great articles, and next week, some Shark Tankers will come out. So like, it's just, you look at that and you go, wow, okay, well, maybe the high value, high name recognition is good for something. But if it doesn't add value to your show at the end of the day, that's when, do you want to do a lot of those? That's a question.
That's a good point. That really goes back to your studying and researching your potential guest. And are they someone you see promoting whatever it is that they're doing, pushing things out on social media? That is a really good sign. And
the one other thing I want to mention that I do look for is to make sure that if they have a bunch of interviews and they've done a bunch of TV spots, I always get suspect of it, and I watch a bunch of videos. I don't just listen to one, I watch a bunch, because then they tend to be trained to be soundbite people, and they give the same thing on every show they do. Yep. And so that's when when I find that they've done that, I'm like, oh, they're trained, and you can sense it in the way that they say things. And so I always listen to multiple shows if that's the case.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think I go back to thinking, okay, what it comes down to a lot of times is people are so busy, they try to put, and I've had the same thing happen. Somebody's high maintenance, they don't really value it as much because they're the employee. I don't think they're motivated to care a lot of times. They're getting an hourly basis. They don't care. They're trying to be difficult, stuff like that. Because I've dealt with high maintenance people, not only on the podcast side, but also at events, like inviting people to an event that I'm putting butts in the seats, and like, well, you're going to have 200 people there. And same thing. What time slot? And I'm making the point, like, no, it's not worth the headache. I'll do better without it, because if you're a headache now, you're going to be even bigger pain in the ass to deal with once you get live, right?
I agree.
Exactly.
And I like to kill that. I call it dead wood. If you're just going to be a pain in the ass, it's not working with you, because shit's going to go wrong at some point, and then you're going to have to hear that person bitch and moan or whine because it wasn't perfect. So I just should not be having them around. So
yeah,
good
you've got when you've got a good show, you've got enough people asking to be on it.
So Scott, should we open it up to maybe some questions?
Yeah, let's have some questions
and see if anybody's got some specific challenges related to guests.
And when you come and if we turn you on live, or you're typing the chat, tell us your show and what kind of guest you're looking for.
That'd be great, because I get to chat. If you're here on Zoom, it'd be great. And then I'm also monitoring the chat roll on the Facebook Live as well from people too. So that's a good thing here. So yeah, tell us what kind of show you have, like Tracy said. One of the things that I've been doing, and I'll just kind of prime the pump a little bit here for everybody here with what people are asking for. You got Garrison Gilbert joining us on there, Laura Blanc, Polly Costigan, Joe Mendoza, Jason Cisneros. We got some other peeps on there as well. Kimchi was on here earlier. So,
and we got on Zoom, we've got Deborah Grenard, We've got Jim Brown, Gene Norton, Nadia. Hey, you're back.
Mitch
Nadia
Russo's
Flora,
there,
Mitch
too.
Russo's here. Wesley Wells. I don't know you, but maybe
Yeah, there's some
Scott does.
people
There's some
we
people
don't
I don't
know,
recognize.
but,
Scott Brown.
But that's all right. Hey, thanks for joining us. And yeah, if you've got, I think anything related to guests, your biggest challenge, or anything you're wondering about, just this is your opportunity to serve up a question or a challenge. We'd love to help you with it. And if we don't have any, we'll just keep going here for a while on our own.
So one of the things I've been doing, I've been focused on this. I think we talk about, we've been to Podfest Expo. I had Chris on yesterday on my show. Yeah, there you go. You got Podcast Movement as well. Both are taking place in Orlando this year, right?
Yeah.
And so it's always good going there, networking and talking with like-minded people and getting people booked on. And when you meet with people there, great too. Going to the different Facebook groups, and if you're looking to get booked, hey, here's what I do, and share a little bit about your stuff. One of the interesting events that I went to was the New Media Summit put on by Steve Olsher here in Austin a few months ago. He invited me on as an icon, and he had a lot of people pitch in 2 minutes there about their show to get on, and I thought that was pretty interesting. So I took what I learned from that and actually went out, and I made sure it was on an earlier post. I know that Tracy and I were going back and forth with challenging each other to get booked on more shows, right? And what you've been doing for a while.
I've done one a week, for the last month.
Yeah,
that's good.
I know he's killing me on it. I know.
It's all right. Hey, it's okay. It's no competition until next year. Anyway. But what I did is I say, okay, cool. Because I think it's important. Can we agree to having a good media one sheet, Tracy and Tom, of sending that over?
Absolutely. Yes.
And should we talk about what should go into that?
One down up here, I can
pull
just
down.
show quick.
Rip it out of my ear here. So we do a show one sheet and a personal one sheet as the host. We like to do two because it's different information people want. So if people are asking to be on your show or asking about your show, like you're soliciting and said, well, tell me about your show, we send them the show one sheet. If I want to be on somebody else's show, I send the host one sheet, right? Like who I am.
So here's like an example of one for one of the people we work with, John Livesay, who's got the Successful Pitch podcast, and it's got a lot of information about him as a host and his show,
but it's giving a little bit of listener demographics. We just keep it general. It's because we don't want to update it all the time, so it's just giving a good percentage of where the percentage of people are, and and how long he's had his show, and a few stats about him and the show. This is for the show specifically. He has his own that he uses as a speaker, and so if he were seeking to be a guest, he probably would use his speaker one sheet.
Right.
Do you think it's important that people have a couple different things on their speaker one sheet about topics instead of just one basic topic?
I think it depends. I do, because a lot of times I don't do it as often on mine because I've got just so much content and stuff I've done that's more like resume like. And what I do is when I send a proposal to someone to speak for them or to be on their show, I'm proposing a topic that's really specific to them, which is why they always accept, because they're like, oh, nobody's talked about that before. I was like, I know, that's why I suggested it. So, that's where I'll scan however many episodes they have, and I'll look at anyone who might do what I do and say, do they have anyone who's talked about this before? And I really give them something new that no one's heard and that I haven't necessarily spoken about. So that also helps.
Another option is what we've done, Tracy, which it serves a similar purpose to a one sheet, which is, a convenient PDF document. You can email someone or can be downloaded from your website, but you've actually created TracyLeeHazard.com. And I think I have TomHazard.com, is it? Or is it
it's TomHazard.com,
where that is another thing you can do is have your own personal webpage separate from your business website. This is about you, the guest, right? Or potential guest. Or
like that idea.
And sorry. We do that.
It's technically a part of our website. Like it's there. It's just a page, and that URL refers to it.
Forwards in, but it's not the same look as the rest of the website. It's just about being a guest or a speaker, and it has a lot of this one sheet information, and
you can keep it more updated. And people are less afraid because sometimes people don't want to download documents. That's what I find. So.
And also we have our booking calendar links that are right on that page for if you're going to book time with us for whatever reason. And then So it's not a place for people to book to be a guest. Wait, it's what is the booking? It's for people to talk with us.
It's just to have a call with you.
To have a call, but it's not about booking on our podcast necessarily. Anyway, you can do all sorts of different things with this page, but especially we find.
So this is something funny that happened. I'll tell you the story real quick. So mine links through to because I have different types of calendars, right? Because we have this complex calendar that we just told you about, Schedule Ones. And so I have a specific page that is for people who want to make speaking inquiries. And so I treat it like guest and speaking inquiries. It's the only one on my calendar. It's the trick. The only one on my calendar in which my schedule is wide open. They could pretty much book any time because if somebody's asking you to speak, it's a PR opportunity. I don't want to miss it. So it's the only one that has the wide open. So I had this guy who had clicked on because they're also, when you go to, I have a meetwithtracy.com. And when you go there, there's three places: call with Tracy, my Inc. interview, and then this speaker interview kind of thing, speaker booking appointment. And so he was really smart because my call with Tracy blocks out after so many calls in a week. And so I didn't have anything for like 3 weeks. He clicked my speaker one and booked a call with me. And he fessed up the minute he got on it. I was like, okay, this is not a speaker call, but okay, whatever. I still took the call and he fesses up and he said, I did this. And I said, well, now I really want to talk to you because you were really creative in how you got to me. So, but
yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I have a meetwithtom.com too. That's the thing that whatever, I find it hard to remember, like the meetme.so / whatever that booking calendar link is. You might consider also getting a URL that's easy to remember. And I actually got meetwithtom.com, didn't I? Yeah.
It's meet-with-Tom.
Yeah. Some of the anyway, it's easy to remember for me if I'm on the phone with somebody and they want to, or
that's why I started it.
And they want to book it. Have an easy URL for you to give them to remember, or you can have it on your business card if you do.
So another way is if you have your show page, so feedyourbrand.co/book. Like that's what I do for Product Launch Hazards, and I do it for the other. It just automatically forwards to the calendar. So it's not even a page on my site. It just forwards to the calendar.
Yeah.
So there's one step. It's not two.
Yeah. All right.
I'm
wow.
not seeing any chat tonight.
Is the chat working here?
It's totally working. I think people are just taking notes feverishly like I was. All right. So one of the things that I think has worked out, I know it's worked well for me dramatically here, and I shared this with you, Tom, a while back, is if you're really interested in trying to get booked, and that's one thing one of the things I'm working and using to promote the Note Closer show, besides swag.
You got a lot of swag. You got a lot of cool swag.
is I'm trying to find other people that have podcasts that would fit with my niche, like real estate podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
So can I share the screen here and just walk people through this real fast?
Please do.
Let me share my screen here. Do I have anything up here? Okay.
So I want to say, while Scott's looking that up and everything, to everyone, you definitely don't want to avoid people who also are in the same niche as you. You want that because obviously their audience is the right type of audience already.
I know what Scott's going to go over here. This is
I love this stuff.
And actually there's some pro tips here that we
okay. So I'm logged into my LinkedIn account, and LinkedIn made a big change just recently too. You used to be able to, you could connect with people and then go and export your contacts. Well, they stopped doing that on Thanksgiving. They literally stopped it. So it's kind of screwed some people up. But anyway, so what I like to do, I was like, well, okay. So I use it to type like for real estate investors, because that's a big audience of mine. I'm looking for real estate, or investor. And here it pulls it up. So let me just go back in here and do it again. Yeah, so I'm gonna look for real estate investors, and it's going to show up that there are, there's 3,715. I'm going to change that though to connections and just say first link connection, hit apply. 5,800 real estate investors. I don't think that's actually right, but I think there's a lot more there. But anyway, so I said, okay, let me see how many podcast hosts there are. So podcast host.
This is going to blow you away.
So it says first degree connections. I'm going to take this off and hit apply. 354,000. Where'd that number go?
Yeah, it's there.
It's there.
Oh, you see it? Okay. That's just a few. 354,606 results. That was kind of crazy. I was like, whoa, okay.
Oh, no.
Well, it's
list.
Right. Podcast host, let me type in real estate. And that number went to 13,861.
Amazing.
Okay. And you can see message, because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna start reaching out to these people. Okay. And that's what I did. So I said, okay, 13,000, that's still a lot. So let me change it to a second-degree connection. All right. And those that I have a secondary connection to, where I'm basically one removed, is 1,500. So I'm like, okay, great. So you see, I sent a bunch of invites out here. Invite sent. A bunch of them went out. And so what happened is when they accepted my connection, when they accepted my connection, I then sent them a quick little inbox mail. I said, hey, great, thanks for reaching out to me. Love connecting with the local podcasters. I've been listening to your show. I think I might make a great guest for your show. Okay. And I actually took some time, and if they connected, I'd go to their website, check out how many episodes they had, do a quick little bio, search on them, see what their focus was, if it was a good fit, whether it was either real estate investing like for me, or even like social media marketing or entrepreneurship, were three of the things I was looking at. So I reached out to these. I sent 100 of these direct invites sent on a Sunday night. By Monday at 5 o'clock, 40 of them had responded and accept my connection. I then sent 20 emails with that little bit. And then I also took the time to record a 2-minute video on my pitch. Exactly 2 minutes, included a link from YouTube. And out of those 40, it's now up to 35 of them have responded and booked me on their shows.
Oh,
that is
nice
an incredible
job.
conversion rate.
Now that's not the first 40. Now I've added more people to doing that, and so it's different. But out of those first 40, 35 of them have responded, and it's been crazy. Some of them, I'm booked like next month on these, or some of these are like, great, we're booking you today. I've been on a bunch of shows over the last couple of weeks doing it, but it was just I didn't pay anybody to do this. It was just something that was free out there to go do, and it's worked out pretty well as well. And I did another thing since LinkedIn stopped allowing you to connect. Like, you could go connect with a lot of people on here if you wanted to, right? Well, I use this now scrap.io to literally pull up, typed in podcast host, do a search, and export it to scrap.io. And it gives me a list of people, their contact, their name, their email if it shows, or their website. And then I had a VA log in and go track down that person's email off their website.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So
LinkedIn, I think, is a fantastic resource, especially, if you're in, the business to business, guests would be a good fit for you. And I think most of us, that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an incredible resource. I remember when you told me that 350,000 number of people that list themselves as podcast hosts on LinkedIn. I mean, that's staggering.
That is staggering. Yeah.
I mean, there's only about 500,000 podcasts, active worldwide, and only about half of those are English speaking. So 350,000. Wow. Fantastic. It shows you how many people are using LinkedIn. What a great resource.
Right. And really only like 200,000 of them are actually active. So
yeah, that's the crazy thing.
That's the other reason why you can't just message them. You do have to check out their show, because I did this. This is part of when I went to go do mine, and I did all the Amazon seller podcasts to go check my list, because that's the list that I'm preparing to contact. I have not contacted them yet. I take longer on my research and so than Scott does, which I wish I could be faster. But when I found a lot of the shows dropped off and stopped. And so, that's really, I need to drop them off my list. If they've
gone dark or dormant, then you don't really want to waste your time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Another thing I did, since I have a lot of students with what I do in my investing side, I started Googling them. When they would tell me, oh, I was on a podcast, I was like, oh, really? You were? You were on a podcast? That's good. I need to be on that podcast.
And did we mention, because I had to walk out, but did you guys mention asking your guests to recommend other guests?
Oh, no, that's a great one.
Actually.
Oh, yeah. That's it. All the time. That's one of the easiest ways for you to get the next one. That's what John Livesey does. Who else should be on my show?
Yeah. And who do you know? Because if you somebody that they know, then you can say, hey, John Livesey recommended I give you a call, or he thought that I would be an ideal guest for you, or that you'd be an ideal guest for me, whatever. Anytime you can get that personal referral, even if you don't know them, it's going to land with, right. In a more receptive way, chances of making a good connection is going to be
So
there.
now today you were just, you put it up on the board. You had when you showed them the calendar link,
Right.
that was somebody who came back.
Oh yeah, that was the second time.
That
guest
is
on my
something
show, yeah.
after you hit 100 episodes, probably not before. That's not highly recommended. You know, it would have to be a rare reason and a good reason to do it before. But after you hit 100 episodes, you can do a follow-up. Don't invite someone on who, they're just going to talk about the same thing again, just because they were fun. Make sure there's something really to follow up in. But there are, so we had our VA go at the end of the year. So we would do it at the end of every year. We would go, hey, we're looking for guests in January, because January is always hard because some people haven't figured out their strategy. And so we say, oh, we're looking for some guests and we want to do updates on where people are. So where are you? And so we pick the top 10, 15 shows from the prior year, and we follow up and we just check on those guests and say, oh, what new are you working on? And when they say something's really cool and new, we go, definitely, let's invite them on and let's do an update. And so we maybe do, 4 or 5. It's not a ton, but we fill January in that amount of time. And so that's helpful, because January, you guys don't realize it, but it seems like it would be really easy to get someone on. It is easier to get someone on last minute, but it's hard to get someone to pre-book. Like they just get they're like, I don't know if I'm going to do podcast interviews next year. So just, they always stall.
That makes sense.
That's been strange. I thought too, but can be the reality of it. Yeah. And this one I interviewed today, we did have something really new, and it had been a year since I had interviewed this person on our podcast, and there was a lot of developments that, things change and more relevant today for the audience.
And that happens because I actually do mostly keep up with the guest on LinkedIn. That's actually where I do most of it, because for the 3D print one, that's mostly where I got them from to begin with. And so I follow up with them on LinkedIn I try to check in with them at least once a year. It's kind of, I have a rolling calendar. So over the course of the year, I just ping a bunch of people and just say, hey, how are you doing?
Good. We have maybe an off-topic question, which I don't mind. Hey,
Wesley,
since we don't have any other questions,
should we bring them on?
For it.
You want to put them on?
Either type it in or let us know if you'd like to.
Yeah, if you want to come on live, we're happy to have you.
Your branding.
So Profits in Real Estate. That's the podcast. Right.
Do you know him, Scott?
Well, I do know Wesley. Yeah, he's actually a student, which is awesome.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Good.
So, let us know your branding question, or if you're willing to come on live here.
Just flag us and we'll put you on.
We have a question while Wesley's answering, though. Jim says, no show of my own, early to podcasting, real estate broker for 44 years, just checking out value of using with my social media marketing.
Oh my gosh, the value is tremendous. I mean, you actually are in real estate, Scott. So, you could probably speak to that more. You're getting tremendous value out of podcasting and everything you can push out on social media with that, right?
So I'm willing to bet Jim is in an area, realtor for 44 years, in a market, right? Total market by himself. Not by himself, but he's got a local probably client base that he deals with. If you're putting business cards or flyers on cars, or you've got the bus benches that realtors do on the side of the buses, a lot of people do that. It's old-fashioned marketing. But everything's now social media. Everybody's searching. So if you can use it and start using the keywords of where you're located at, or let's say you're in Columbus, Ohio realtor. Start using those keywords in with your social media, or even with your podcast. I'm your Columbus realtor. Something like that, or whatever it is. It's going to add, especially if you start taking it and using those episodes, or start recording Facebook Lives, or start doing Zooms like this and uploading to YouTube as well. You'll take over the top of the search engines, right? With SEO, right, guys?
Yeah, there's 3 reasons why it would be really good to have that kind of locale, because locale gets served up. So in other words, if someone's looking for a real estate podcast, but they happen to be in your region, you're going to actually pop up first, because Google's already choosing that for them. So they're matching that up. That's where a lot of our chiropractors and doctors are benefiting from the show in that same way. But the other thing is, think about all these other real estate agents who are not podcasting, and they're just doing blog posts, and maybe occasionally or rarely, or it's just social posts. They don't have the Google ranking. And think about how many people are searching on Google versus just searching on social. So it gives you social stuff to market and put out, but it's giving you also a lot of Google power.
Yep.
So.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. All right, we got Wesley on here. I'm going to unmute him.
Yep.
All right, unmute yourself, Wesley.
Hey, how's it going?
There you go. How's it going, man?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Can't complain. Can't complain. What question can we help answer for you? Glad that you're on.
So, like I mentioned in the chat, I have a podcast, Profits in Real Estate, that I was doing with my co-host, Ryan, in Memphis, Tennessee. So we've since kind of separated that, and I'm handling on my own. One thing about the brand is I have my company, Remedy Asset Investment, but I also have this podcast, and I'm trying to figure out what's best. Should I brand the actual company or the podcast? I kind of like your method. You branding with the Note Closer Show t-shirt on right now. I like that whole feel and everything, but I like how you incorporate your business into it as well.
So
I was just trying to figure out how would I best go about to accomplish both of that.
Yeah, let me ask you
podcast
first. So is your topic, so Remedy, it was Remedy, I'm sorry, what was the
Profits in Real Estate?
That's the show, but
yeah.
So the website though, are you selling a course? Are you selling services? Like, what are you selling at the end of the day?
So with Remedy Assets, I'm not selling anything. It's just more of I'm into note investing like Scott, and I also buy homes in the Memphis area just to fix and rehab and then owner finance. So on the site, it's just pretty much showing what I do as an investor. So I'm not really showing selling anything.
Okay, so then my recommendation to you is to not worry about the fact that the names aren't the same, because a show is a show. So
yeah.
They want to make profit at the end of the day, right? So
yeah.
that attracts investors, but it also attracts people who want to sell, so it gives you a lot of flexibility to keep it that way. So unless you have to change the name of the show because your partner, went away and you have to change it because they're mad about that, that happens. We've had to rename shows for that, but I wouldn't rename it because Profits in Real Estate's great show name, and it still works well. What we don't like to see is when you have a corporate show where Scott's is not the same. It's like if he named his podcast We Close Notes, it's going to feel all about him and not about them or not about the subject. And so, that's what happens when you put a company name on a podcast a lot of times. And so by not having that, I think your branding's just fine.
But in Scott's case, the Note Closers show, it's about them, the people closing notes, not just him, but everybody else that he works with, obviously like you or has taught and is part of the community. It makes sense. So yeah, I agree with Tracy. It can be, the brand can be certainly related to your business, and that may make a lot of sense, but not the exact same brand. And I love Profits in Real Estate. I mean, that's got to get a lot of people clicking on
and
that.
It's nice and broad.
About that.
Yeah.
That's the thing I was going to say. Being broad, it gives you a much larger audience with you doing a variety of things there in Memphis, whether it's fix and flips or, wholesaling or owner financing or buying distressed debt there, Wesley. It gives you a lot bigger audience aspect of things to work with for you. So, and the Remedy Real Estate or the Remedy Assets, it kind of, it works in a little bit, but you have both. We've got Remedy Investments, which is my real estate investment company, and then I also have this little podcast over here called Profits in Real Estate. It's got 1 million downloads and 1 million views. It'll help. So
okay, and I have another question. I'm in the process of rebranding, like I said, and one of the things when we first started the podcast, we use Anchor. Anchor is kind of limiting on what they allow you to do and stuff. So I figured that out the hard way. And even some of the episodes that we do have on there, even though they're not a lot, they're not allowing me to take them off and use them on another service. So I was trying to,
That's okay.
I was trying to realize what's another solution besides Anchor that I could use that you would recommend?
Many.
Just Podetize.
Podetize. Okay.
Yeah, that's ours. Podbean,
You
Libsyn.
need to use a hosting service.
Okay.
Not going to take ownership of your content. You want a posting that's going to serve you in getting your message out to the world, but you own the content always. Yeah. And Anchor is not one of those.
Yeah. I would avoid Anchor and Pippa. Those are the two we have the biggest problems with.
Okay.
And then podcast websites claim that you don't have to host anywhere and you can just use them, but that's not true. Don't do that.
That ends up.
Don't do that. Okay.
causes more problems for your podcast feed than it helps.
So that's those are the three that give us the biggest headaches.
Consider, and all of them are good.
Hang on a second, Wesley. I've never led you wrong, have I?
No, you never have.
All right. So you need to take down a number, podatize.com. Okay. They'll host it for you. Trust me. We're not here to pitch anything, but I tell you, I love what they do. You need to get off of Anchor. You've got how many episodes up right now?
I probably have 6 or 7 episodes.
You're new enough, not big enough. Worst case, you get a audio recorder and play the episode and record it. Or if you've got the audio recordings, re-upload them after you take them off.
What will happen is if you have the audio recordings yourself to begin with, do you have like a copy of them?
Yes, I do. I save them in my Google Drive.
And what will happen is that you just come to us. We'll help you migrate them, and our team takes care of that for you. But the issue is that what will happen is that after a while of the feed going, we'll be able to circumvent your feed, and we'll be able to get you. They'll dump off. So essentially, they won't be able to serve it because you're not adding new, and iTunes isn't going to list you anymore.
But Anchor may rights to the content is put up there because of the agreement, but regardless,
they're never going to
6 or 7 episodes.
Yeah.
Far down the road,
okay.
Time to pull the plug. Yeah. You're not starting too late. The one thing that I do want to recommend though is that take a note from Scott as you do episodes and you get like a bigger bank of them, having spin-off shows, which we allow. So we allow up to 5 shows to be hosted so you can do a spin-off at any time. You could do a little spin-off and you could put a player on your site, but lets people that these episodes are all about Memphis. Like they're or these are all about remedy, right? Like and trying to deal with the thing that's your core. So you could either point to the episodes by having a list on, a page that lists, if you're interested in this, here's the top, or you could run a player. And so you can do that in multiple places and run it by running a separate feed, which gives you like multiple shows actually. So you could do like Profits in Real Estate Memphis edition, and you could do that. So that would be, especially if you end up with a bunch of shows that happen to be about that because of who you invite on.
Okay, thanks.
Put them on your main feed because that's where your primary listeners are. But after they publish there, you can split off a feed to be a special series. And then on Podatize, you can have up to 5 of those for the same rate. That's one of the advantages of our platform. But like Scott, what do you have? 4 or 5 different show identities now?
Oh, we got No Closer Show, No Camp, No Night in America, Fur Babies podcast. If we can get more episodes out of her. And then the second one with No Camp 6.0. That's the second season now.
Right.
So we have, because we have a show that has like almost 550 episodes or something like that. So we also have volume 1, volume 2, so we also do spin-offs like that. But if we wanted to, we could do instead of best of, like where it was just like the top out of those first 200 or so.
Scott, aren't you doing one of you being a guest on other people's shows? Aren't you doing one of those?
I'm working through that right now. Yeah. So
on a lot of shows. You can do a feed as long as you get permission from the podcasts that you're a guest on, and most will give you that because there's more exposure for them. That you can put out a feed of all the shows you've been a guest on, if that makes sense for you. So there's a lot of opportunities. And as far as I know, I think Podatize is the only platform where you can have multiple feeds for the same subscription. On all the others, you got to have another monthly subscription for each different show identity or feed. So
are you editing the show yourself?
Yes, I am. And
that's cool.
Proven to be difficult.
So don't edit. So here's my tip for you. Do it on Zoom. Do it, try to do it in one take, or live stream. Live stream's better because you're going to get more circulation. Do it on live stream. Download the video. Strip off the audio. There's lots of free players. We talked about that in the past mastermind. And then Podatize will let you put your intro outros automatically on.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's already uploaded the pre-recorded intro and outro. Upload your audio and it'll add them for you and publish it. And you don't even need to edit as long as there's nothing in the middle you care to clean up. And if you went live with it on Facebook, you already went out there live with it. Right?
Okay.
There's a lot of people doing that now. That's something we put together specifically because of Facebook Live, a lot of live streaming of episodes.
They didn't want to edit, so we just so they wanted to put their bumpers on, and they didn't want to hire an audio editor to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Anyway, great.
Thanks, guys.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
Wesley. Great stuff.
You have anything on Facebook, Scott?
I'm looking here. We got people that are watching. We're getting some love from some friends, other Andy Friedman, James Ben Proyen, our buddy James that we've met over there in Podfest on some other things out there as well. And he was also at Podcast Movement as well. Ronnie Walker, I think, is watching right now. Mary Kate Hall watching. What is going on, everybody? Polly Garrison, Laura Blunt, Dan Deppen, some people in and out there for sure as well there as well. So
Tina Fuller and Barry Adrian, and so we've got some people that you know, Scott, because they've been messaging Wesley saying hey, so they must have met in one of your classes.
So let's see here. We had all our answered questions. Okay, good. Let's go to the chat roll here. Anybody else got anything here? Profits of Real Estate, Wesley. Okay, yeah.
Covered that.
Yep.
So.
Oh, one new message. Nadia has a question. Tracy, I received my annual renewal from podcast websites. Would like to connect with you. You see what we could do together. What's the best way to reach you?
Okay.
Let's see.
She's gonna type in the chat. What do you
Yeah.
want?
So let's just do I'm gonna send you the podetize. Is it podetize?
Yeah.
Sorry. Is it hello at or info at?
I think hello at works.
Hello at podetize. If you do that at any time, anyone, if you have questions, Alexandra answers that, and so she'll get you to the right place, Nadia, because I don't really know which calendar to give you right now. I say that and I'm like, I don't know which calendar to give you. So Alexandra will take care of it and make sure that you get to the right calendar, get your questions answered, and make sure that you can do that. So
yeah, definitely.
yeah. So yeah. Oh, I'm glad you're going to move over. So I hate to see that. I hate to see, but you have a website issue and stuff. So yeah, Alexandra probably can answer more of your questions on that because she is our website guru.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
And deals with podcast websites
all the time.
Issues with people that transfer over. So
But when we talk a little bit about some things we discussed and just do a quick recap on things, huh?
Great.
So we talked about using LinkedIn and reaching out to podcast people there, right?
Right.
We talked out and asking. I think the biggest thing is asking who else would be good on my show, asking for referrals, right? Researching exactly there as well. Fourth one was, what else did we also talk about?
Calendar links and how you can use that to capture information from your guests, so you don't have to do as much work to gather info from your guest, and you really make them do a lot of that work for you. I love that. Yeah,
that. And then one sheets. You should think about a one sheet. So
or a landing page.
Or landing page, yeah. One sheet's landing page complex. Yeah, really something that you can keep up, because this is what I do find. I find that they're pretty outdated really quickly. So anything you can keep up and make sure that you're keeping it current for yourself.
Mm-hmm. How important is it if you're going to be a guest that somebody's sharing their number of downloads, the number of the markets they're seeing, or the countries, or what the more they know their avatar? Is that helpful if you're coming on as a guest?
I care more about their audience, because I don't mind being on a show early on. In fact, I've had some really great benefits from being on some of the early episodes. So I was on FBA Millionaires, and I was one of their first dozen episodes. I still get referrals from that every single week. It's constant, because they're growing their show and they're working hard to grow your show. And when people binge listen or start to listen or start a new show, they go through all those early episodes. So they're of great value. And so I don't mind that. So I don't really worry about that. I worry more about, is the audience a match? And am I going to be able to give that audience something new and interesting? So is it going to be a value through that? But I have been on a couple of rare, I was on Hack the Entrepreneur, which was, I was placed by an agency because I was testing them out. And I was like, this is a show you just want to know, what I did wrong. That's what they wanted. They was all about what you did wrong. But I have to tell you, I've got some of my best referrals from there. So you never know. So if it seems good show and seems interesting, and the host is passionate and the audience is, somewhat relevant, then I kind of give them the benefit of the doubt. So
it depends on your focus of your business.
Yeah. How much time do you have?
Marketing and getting out there, marketing yourself, being a guest on other shows or having a guest on your show. Obviously, I mean, this is our method of marketing our business. And I know it is for you too, Scott. So the more time you can get on other people's shows, the more exposure you're going to get. This is the best marketing time you could spend, and you think of your time as money, you're the best marketing dollars you could spend, because it's going to create, relevant associations and leads, where if you, otherwise you're putting money into pay-per-click or money into Facebook advertising, it's a lot harder to get a good return and conversion on that. I think this time is the best time we spend.
Yeah. So I was just thinking, kind of going back to Jim's question about what we do and how social media works well with it. If I record the video, right? And so just say it goes to Facebook Live, it's one thing. Okay. You guys get up to iTunes and all the other platforms. It's like 30, 40 different platforms, right? Well, I throw our Facebook pages and Instagram pages at 7. All right. There's something else I'm missing. I'm trying to think if there's something else that I'm missing. Boom, 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 across the board. Oh, then you also like Twitter, Pinterest, if you posted stuff there as well too. And then of course 9 it'd be emailing out to your audience too.
Yeah, email to your list. Yeah, we do that too. And you know what? Don't underestimate. I think we talked about this in a past mastermind session, but don't underestimate the power of the blog post on your website. The SEO value of the words, the text that is based on what you said in the episode, that captures people that don't know you exist. That's the big thing. They're people that aren't following you yet. They're typing in terms into Google that you've talked about in your episode. Your post comes up, they click, they end up on your site. Boom, you got them on your turf, and where they can experience and consume all your content. So that's the power of that blog post is huge.
Yeah. We should mention something that we do on Feed Your Brand too. And you've been doing, Scott, is doing a feature on your students, and we do a feature on our clients. And those are written posts only. And there's a real reason why there's a value in that, because they have podcasts already. We just need to link through it. They don't need to be doing another podcast. It's not relevant to our audience. So it doesn't really make sense for us to do all these features. So we just do a shorter interview. We do it in an interview style, and then we have it written. And so, the features
like
like an article. Yeah. It's like 800 words or something. And so, it's nice though to have those for your own purposes, to say you were featured here, even if you weren't on the show, but it's the blog post that they send them to. So we like to do that for our clients, and we just rotate through, and then we put them out in newsletter as a feature, because other podcasters can learn from what they've done, because they almost always mention something unique and interesting that they've tried or done, or why they chose to do it, which is always an interesting one as too. But I would love for next year to open that up to our Podcast Peeps mastermind and let them be featured as well. Be happy to do that.
Yeah,
so
I think that'd be
next
a good
year we'll
value
do that.
of participating in Podcast Peeps. And the value of that, not only do you get an article written about you on another website, but then, for us, selfishly, reality is you're going to link from your website to our website. You're going to link from, you're going to get a powerful link back. So if you model that for yourself and your show, and maybe have a VA do it, or there are services like FreeUp you can use, you don't have to consume your time. It's not very expensive to do it. Have a feature article written about your client, or, hey, we were talking about Memphis real estate, feature article written about, maybe it's a home building company in Memphis, or I'm trying to think of what's relevant in Memphis in real estate. That's more your game, Scott. But you can have a feature article written for another company that's going to link back to your site, and that's going to plant these seeds all surrounding your business out there in the world that is going to pay off.
Right. So I just wanted to make that clear. There's not just guests you can seek. You can also to write articles about lots of copywriters. We use a company called FreeUp. We mentioned it before with 3 E's in it, FreeUp. Whoop, and
keep talking.
Yeah, keep talking. I can keep talking without it in my ear. But, and so there's a lot of really good writers out there. You don't have to be a good writer. So
I've been getting a lot of interns from local colleges email me wanting to write blogs and articles. I'm like, okay, great. Shannon, who handles a lot of our marketing, she has a writing background, so she wrote a couple blogs, and
they were great, by the way.
They were good. When we sent them out, and I paid a little bit extra money to go out a press release, like $700. Well, we got 172 periodicals, newspapers, websites, and things like that. Pick up the articles. Boom, got an influx of views, downloads. People checking stuff out as the Google stuff. So
yeah, just don't fluff pieces, like that's the kind of thing. It's like make them interesting. You don't want it to just be follow a formula that's like, oh, here's my story. Like you really want it to have, a good angle that helps your site too, because if people are going to read this, they want to understand what does that have to do with real estate or what does that have to do with notes. And that's really it. But I mean, for you, it's like, it's the story side of things. Like, why did I choose note closing? Like what's in, and I thought they were some great stories about why they did it, and they get personal in there.
Mm-hmm.
You got a real human interest story. So I could see why President and got picked up because of the way the stories were written.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah, great.
Well, I think we've kind of, if there's not any other questions, comments from anybody out there, I got an idea here. Let's do this real fast. We go to participants. Let's see who's still on. Barry Adrian, are you a podcaster? Do you have a podcast? Or are you speaking like Christina Fuller's an agent in the San Antonio market? Deborah Grugnard, are you a podcaster as well?
She is. She's works with us on Poditize. She has a podcast.
Cool. So self-care for the soul.
Correct.
Cool. And then we've got Verdar Las Claus. Hi, buddy. It's good to see you, buddy. He's a podcaster. Let's see here. Gene Norton. I don't know, Gene, do you have a podcast? I know you write a lot of blogs. Gene's also a local investor here in Austin, Texas. John Drozba. You know that name?
Practical Esoteric. I love that name. That is awesome.
Yeah. And then let's see, Milton Cox and Lynn McLean. Are you guys, I think you're both investors. I think you both up there as well. So yeah.
So next one is December 12th. That's our last one for the year because the holidays are right after that.
Actually, we're going to be with Scott.
Yeah, we're going to have to figure out how to
Austin.
all crowd around or do it separate
plenty
rooms.
of room there. No, plenty of
We
room.
won't be in the office here. No, we'll be down at the Hilton.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, is that where we're going to do it? Okay.
We'll do it down at the Hilton there. Exactly. We'll do it in the meeting room down there.
The night before though. So
Yeah,
okay.
well, we're going to do it there. That's cool.
Okay,
But
good.
that's great. We'll be in
We'll be in
person,
Austin.
which is fun because we're
going to mastermind in person.
going to visit Scott for a great couple days there, which is always fun. And Austin is a very cool city. I look forward to going back.
So one of the things that might be relevant here to those that are listening, and this is something that we're doing just so what it is, it's not like a big event that we're doing here in Austin. I got invited people that we work with a lot, like you guys, Christy and Elijah White, not Gene Antone, I was thinking of Gene Norton, but George Antone, Aaron Young, Jason Bible, a few others that are coming in that are some of our biggest fans, Mel Chandler, who's also in sponsors, and I'm just bringing it in for like a day and a half, what's your schedule look like? What do you do? What's your first 6 months look like? How can we all kind of cross market and cross pollinate each other as a way? And I actually got that from HBO. 6 months ago, I saw an HBO special talking about, or it was Real Sports with Brian Gummel talking about Shaquille O'Neal. And he's quite the pitch man, right? He does a lot of ads, a lot of commercials from the General Insurance to Ring and things like that. But he puts on a summit every December in Orlando where he brings in all the people that pay him, from the shoe companies to Ring to everybody. And he sits down with them and says, okay, what can we do to better promote you? Your shows. What can I do better to be a better brand ambassador for you? And so I was like, that's a great idea,
Well, and it's also a great model. I can't wait to experience this. This is the first time you're doing this, right?
Yeah.
So we're honored to be invited.
Yeah.
And when Scott Carson invites us, we're there. I love attending events with you. Podfest was awesome. We're doing Podfest together. We're going to
Because Steph is going to be there.
Well,
Steph is going to be there. Steph is getting the hotel booked and everything like that. Steph's a big part,
Actually,
obviously.
We were waiting to figure out what hotel because we got to book our
Cross
we booked our
brand
flights,
marketing
we haven't booked the
mastermind.
hotel.
That's what Christina named it. I love it.
But I think this is a great model for what we're planning to do in the future with Podcast Peeps. In terms of having, we're going to continue to do in the new year these bi-weekly webinar, and then we're planning to have some in-person events where we can all really spend some more time together, take deeper dives, and help move each other forward. So I'm very excited about this. As I know this is a smaller one, but as a model for what we're going to do for our own event in the new year. So.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked about it. We're going to do some stuff in Cape Coral next weekend because I have my mastermind group with 50 people. And so we're kind of to go through a little precursor of that, but it's great. Everybody's, I haven't told you guys this, but make sure you get like a 30-minute presentation on what you do a little bit to share with the other.
Homework now.
For this weekend. Okay.
For 13th and 14th.
Yeah.
You can share just so everybody gets a better feel for you that doesn't know you as well as I do. So.
Okay. Oh, for that. Oh, sure. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, I wrote it down.
No problem.
So what should we have the next topic be? Those that are watching, those that are tuned up, you have a topic that you'd like for us to go through next time?
Great idea. Yeah, we do want to make sure that we are making this relevant and valuable for you. So if you got some topic ideas, shout them out or chat them out.
Chat them out, yeah.
Should we do, whether it's like goal setting for the next year, or having a big goal that you want to accomplish? That's always a big thing come Christmas time, because we'll have one on the 13th, 14th. It'll be the last webinar, the last one of these for the year, because we won't do one on Christmas, at Christmas week. There, it doesn't make sense. But for what you guys are listening for, and then we've got some podcasts, we got some investors, we got some people looking to market some things. We'd love to hear what you guys love to share, or would love for us to discuss about on our next Podcast Peeps.
Absolutely.
Message us on Facebook. You're in the Podcast Peeps group, so we'll be checking that as well over the next week, and then we can make an announcement in the Podcast Peeps group.
Yeah,
let you know what's coming up.
And yeah, Facebook's probably a good place to do that. Do we have Podcast Peeps email, Alexandra? Do you know? No, we don't. All right.
We do, but we really only set out the link.
That's,
so yeah, we're not emailing a big group yet. So
no, we're just trying to solicit subjects for future webinars.
So if we could get everybody, who's still on here, who's watching this, I'm going to share my screen one more time. If you guys would go to the Podcast Peeps Facebook group, I'm going to share my screen. I've got it pulled up here. Go out there, like it, subscribe to it. That way you get a track of what's going on. We're going to be obviously adding a lot of new stuff to it going forward. But go out there, like it, and that way you get updated of everything that's going on. We'd love to keep you on there. Whether you're watching this live right now or you're watching this on the Facebook replay or on the video replay as well, we'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, and you know what? If any of you that are there, if you don't mind, if you like this webinar and this mastermind rather, and you appreciate it, if you could give us a little rating or review there on the Facebook page, that's going to help grow the community as well, and more people that are going to help you. This is all about helping each other, and that would be helpful too. So
look, Deborah Grenard already did.
Thanks, Deborah.
Awesome, thank you.
Cool.
Yeah. The previous ones on the Facebook page. Where are the previous webinar videos? They're on the Facebook page. Yeah. Oh, we have a YouTube channel as well for Podcast Peeps. They're located there as well.
Thanks, Joe Mendoza. I see Joe Mendoza went and liked the group as well too. So that's great stuff. So
thank you.
Awesome. I think we're at a good stopping point then guys.
All right, great. Hey, thanks for attending, everybody, and sticking with us for this time. Hope you found it useful, and we will be very happy to see you in 2 weeks for the next one.
Sounds good. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.